Hello, Mr. Breschan. And first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here in Switzerland, in your place, to see this magnificent history and the heritage of Longines brand here.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having taken all the way here to Saint-Imier, because we are here, yes, in Switzerland, but in Switzerland, really in the Jura Mountains, where the heart of the watchmaking is. So it is a bit far away and quite complicated from Turkey to get here. So many thanks for your efforts to having taken the time to come to see us here.
First of all, I know Longines has a huge heritage, huge history in the watch market, dating back to 1832. What is the way of Longines in the market to stay relevant in the current watch market, to combine, to balance innovation with this tradition?
Well, I think, first of all, the watch industry is very different, I would say, from all the other industries, because as far as I know, it's really the only industry that looks back in the past to define the future. And of course, looking back in the past, vintage watches, the history and the heritage of the brand are becoming increasingly important. And we saw this 7, 8 years ago, the increasingly watch fanatics, enthusiasts, collectors, but recently also young people get very interested in watches, and in particular mechanical watches. And I think the reason for this is because young people discover watches, mechanical watches, as truly sustainable consumer goods.
Yes, exactly.
Because nobody buys today a mechanical watch to throw it away 6 months later.
Exactly.
You buy it
you
for
don't
your-
need to upgrade,
No,
update every 1
exactly.
year.
You don't need to update it every 6 or 12 months. You buy this watch for your lifetime. You buy this. You don't need. You buy this for even for the next generation, and there's a good chance that the value of the watch is even increasing.
Yeah.
So I think that the interest of young people, first of all, because it's sustainable, and I would say also, secondly, you know, the COVID period for them was very destabilizing. There are also some geopolitical conflicts that we have today, very destabilizing for young people. So I think to have strong anchors in the history gives them stability. And I think these 2 points explain this huge interest and success in vintage watches. And of course, for Longines, we have the beauty that we have one of the richest, if not maybe after Breguet, the best history and heritage of all watch brands around the world.
Exactly.
And then, of course, it gives us, I would say, a credibility and the possibility to develop new timepieces that have a very strong link to the history, because we invented so many things like the flyback movement, like the GMT movement, like the turning bezel, etc., that we really have a lot of things to say.
It's not only the designs. For the brand, Longines is most known brands in the history, Swiss history, that have founded so many new complications that had some impact on the watch manufacturing of Switzerland, like the chronograph, like the flyback chronograph, as you said, like the GMT, of course. What is the brand's strategy to make people more aware about these things? Because I believe very few people are, of course, the heavy watch enthusiasts know these. But for the young generation, what is the idea, what's the route for the Longines to make people more aware of this?
Well, I think
details?
that, you know, when you look back in the past 20 years, maybe Longines was one of the biggest success stories in the whole Swiss watch industry, because the brand had a dramatic growth. But this growth was in particular done with Asian customers that really got fanatic about watches, and all Swiss watch brands, they sold a lot of watches to Asian customers. That was great for us. It was great for the growth of Longines, of the whole watch industry. But I think we made one mistake in this period. We neglected the local and domestic customers. And I think that when a local or domestic customer came in a point of sales and only found a watch collection that was a lot more addressed to an Asian clientele than a European one, then they didn't find really what they were looking for. So we were changing this now 5 years ago, that we are developing new products that are very strongly linked to our brand history and heritage, to tell, like you said, this rich heritage, because even myself, I remember very well, I started on July 1st, 2020, here in Longines, in the middle of the COVID.
Yes, exactly. Very bad time to start a new company.
It's horrible because I was almost alone in the office. All our stores in the world were closed. So one of the first things I did is I went to the museum and I discovered myself things, even I was working already more than 20 years in the watch industry, that I didn't know. I didn't know that Longines invented the GMT movement, that Longines invented the flyback movement, that Longines invented the turning bezel, that Longines was the leading brand in high-frequency technology. High-frequency technology was really revolutionizing the precision of the timekeeping of sport events. Longines was the first brand in 1914 to time sport events at 1/10th, and in 1916 1/100th of a second. So there are so many things that I didn't know, and I said, if I don't know, then probably there are many other people also don't know it.
Exactly.
So this is why we have now developed a lot of new products. For example, also the Spirit Zulu GMT. To recall that it was Longines in 1925 that developed the first wrist GMT watch. And you know the GMT watch, of course, for today, for traveling, it's very interesting because it indicates 2 time zones. But it was coming from the aviation, the need was coming from the aviation industry. And Longines actually also produced navigation industries for airplanes. So pilots came to Longines and asked actually for special functions in watches, like the flyback. But the GMT also became increasingly important for both the instruments and the watches, because with all the upcoming and increasing traffic of airplanes, there was a risk for accidents. So it was clear that they needed to define a unique time zone that when pilots or control towers communicate to each other, that they speak about the same time. And this was defined as the 0 meridian in Greenwich, and 0 in the alphabet of the pilots means Zulu. This is why we call it the Longines Spirit Zulu.
Exactly. Since you said start your words about the Asian market, this is the first time I'm interviewing with a global watch brands CEO. So you have the data. That's why I want to ask you something about these global markets. You are currently active in Asia, Europe, America States, and beyond. So what are the consumers' expectations? I'm guessing since you see the data, say, for example, in some places, large case watches may be popular. In some places, I'm sure automatic watches are more valuable, maybe.
Yes.
And do you take any steps to form the company's manufacturing route way for these kind of chains?
Yes. Well, I think that the regional changes become less and less local. But there are still some big differences because, for example, clearly this interest for vintage watches had a big influence of the size of the watches that people like. Remember, in Italy 20 years ago, all the men wanted big watches. Now with this trend for vintage watches, they want small watches. Currently, the best sizes for men in Italy are 38, 39 millimeter for men watches. It used to be 44, even 42 or 44. But now we have, for example, also the exactly opposite trend in countries like Asia, where in China they like big watches. And if we take 2 families in Longines, or 1 family in Longines that is actually equally popular in China and Italy, for example, the Hydro Conquest. The Hydro Conquest, we have it in 41 and 43.
Yes.
In Italy, we sell 50% more 41 and 43. In China, it's exactly the opposite. We sell 50% more 43 than 41. So it's actually the opposite trend, but probably also when the vintage watch trend is increasingly becoming popular in China, probably they also will go back to smaller size watches.
So that's why you are making most of the, for at the moment, for the current collection, most of the designs, styles have two sizes, two different size options. So maybe that's why you are doing it. Instead
yeah.
of staying on one size, you are offering an option, and so different countries may pick different ones.
It's true. It's a question of country, but then also of preference. People like big watches and small watches. You know, even a lot of women, they like big watches.
Yes, yes.
So I think the way that you, for example, can say, okay, that countries have a preference for big or small, or men or women for big and small, is becoming less and less important. I think it's really a question of personal preference. Everybody understands that you can make with a watch a statement, and if you have a big or small watch, it says something about yourself, your personality. And this is increasingly important because you know, a lot of people, they work, I do not know, in hospitals or in an environment where they have a very strict dress code, and the only accessory that they really allow them to say something about themselves is the watch.
A watch, yeah.
So this remains a fantastic way to sell something about or say something about your personality. And that's true for men and women. And by the way, the women discovered this a lot earlier.
Yes, yes.
Because
I know Longines is also doing better, I think, than most of the Swiss brands in women's, in ladies' watches.
it's true. We are selling exactly 50-50 to men and
Yeah,
women.
that's
And
nice.
50-50 classic and sport. This is unique. No other brand has this. All our competitors, they try to become stronger in the other field for ladies or for classic watches. They all failed. So here we have a very unique positioning in the market that we definitely want to keep, and we will. This is what made Longines so strong in the past, and these are definitely also the pillars that we continue to reinforce to remain strong in the coming 20 years.
We all know that Longines is a brand involved in the Swatch group. So being involved in such a huge group, do you think, of course, it has some advantages, it creates some synergy, positive synergy, and some advantages for the brand. But do you also think it has some negative sides that stops brands to expand even more because you are in a group and the positioning of each brand was decided from somewhere outside Longines? So do you think this has some effect on the possibilities that Longines can achieve? Are you happy with this current
Well,
situation?
I think that being part of the Swatch Group is a huge advantage, definitely for Longines, for several reasons. First of all, we have a total verticalization. That means that all components of a Longines watch, if it is the hands, if it's the indexes, if it's the case, if it's the movement, it's all produced by Swatch Group companies in Switzerland. And when we want to develop, for example, a new movement that recalls us the rich history of the Longines brand,
Exactly.
we are not depending on somebody else. We do not need to convince somebody outside that this is the right investment and the big investment that we have to take. Any investment in this sense is a risk, of course. But we can control this ourselves, and we can take this decision without asking a third party. And that's a huge advantage for having regrouped this. And of course, for example, we have a company very close to here, Universo, that produces the hands for all brands. Or Rübert Wehrmann, they produce the dials for many brands. So of course we take also advantages of expertise that they gain from different brands to have it also for Longines. So having a very strong industrial base here in Switzerland for Swiss-made watches, where the origin of the country is so important, and this is also very unique about the Swiss watch industry, that the origin of made in Switzerland has this unique importance.
Exactly.
And this is something where a big industrial base like in a Swatch Group clearly is an advantage. And we have a huge research and development department in each brand, but also regrouped inside in the group that allows us really to make innovations for the future, because it's very clear the day that you stop innovating, you start killing a brand. And this is, I think, what kept Longines so strong in the past, because we were always looking for innovations. We were never self-satisfied with what we have achieved. And with all these pioneers, in the world of aviation,
of course,
they helped us a lot actually to develop special functions like the flyback. It's clear, the flyback, you fly in one direction for a certain period of time, then you have to change the direction. If you have to stop the chrono, reset the chrono and restart it,
you lose time.
You lose time. If you just press one button, the second hand goes back and starts immediately.
Exactly.
Of course, the precision and the chances that you arrive in the best way to point B is much higher than if you use a traditional chronograph.
Now, Turkey has a growing number of watch enthusiasts now. I know
Yes,
there
that's
are
true.
watch collectors are getting more and more and more in Turkey for the last few years, I believe. Mostly focused on mechanical watch, I believe, and the young generation
Yes.
is also doing this. So, does Longines has any special event ideas or any special marketing strategies for Turkey? How do you see Turkey when you look at the positioning of the brand?
Well,
now?
I think for Turkey, we have, of course, the fantastic news this year that we are celebrating our 100-year anniversary for having developed and invented the wristwatch GMT watch. But in Turkey, it was very interesting because we developed in Longines in 1908 our first pocket watch that indicates 2 time zones.
Yeah, for Sultan Abdulhamid, I know.
Exactly. And he came to Longines and he asked that in addition to the Turkish time, that we develop also the French time, because the transport for boats and trains becomes more and more important. And the Sultan wanted that people are on time for the departure of the trains and the boats. And with the Turkish time, based on the sun rising and sun setting, it was more precise than with the French time. So we developed this watch, especially in 1908 already for Turkey. And now we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the wrist GMT that is also then was used a lot by the pilots. And today, of course, I use it also when I travel to another country to indicate the second time zone. So we have, I think, a good message also for the Turkish market this year.
Yeah, and for this, in the watch market at the moment, the limited editions and the reissues are a new thing, and
Yes.
mostly they are popular. And for the reissue part, I believe Longines is doing a great job, especially for the last years, because it has the huge heritage history. But I wonder who is deciding which style to revive at the moment. For this, do you take the feedback from collectors? So, as a collector from Turkey, since you already mentioned that this Sultan's watch on 1908, I believe this is a huge chance for the brand to make a revival of this watch, a wristwatch in a wristwatch form, which will be, I'm 100% sure, which will be very successful in the country, and also will have huge benefits for the brand to be known more. Yeah. Of course, Longines don't need that much of advertisement, but
of course,
who is deciding to revive which? Because in the archives, I know in the museum there are hundreds of more designs which are ready to be pulled back from the history and offered to the new generations. Yeah. But who is deciding which style to revive?
Well, first of all, we really have to follow our historical books in the anniversaries. Secondly, yes, we are discussing a lot with collectors, enthusiasts, consumers about the styles and designs, because we also have to decide when we recall these anniversaries, do we stay very close as a replica style watch, or do we just get inspirations for the type of indexes, type of hands, type of cases that were used, but we do something more contemporary. And here we are in permanent exchange with the consumers. There's no, I would say, black and white, so we discuss a lot, we test a lot, we show a lot of ideas that we have, we share a lot of ideas with collectors, watch enthusiasts, to make sure that we have the right pieces when we are celebrating such major milestones like the inventing of the GMT wristwatch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.